There's a moment in life, often unexpected, often misunderstood, where everything feels like it's falling apart. You can't sleep, food doesn't taste the same, the things that used to bring joy now feel meaningless. People describe it as burnout, failure, heartbreak, or rock bottom. But here's the truth, and science backs this. If you're feeling this, your nervous system is doing exactly what it was designed to do: reboot your entire life. And when that happens, listen carefully. The best stage of your life isn't just coming, it's already begun. Neuroplasticity is triggered by disruption, not comfort. Growth doesn't happen when everything feels good and easy. It happens when your mind is stretched, when your habits are challenged, and when your comfort zone is shattered. Think about the first time you tried to ride a bike. You fell, scraped your knees, maybe even cried. But your brain was learning, it was rewiring. That wobble, that fear, that imbalance, that was neuroplasticity in action. You were becoming more than what you were. Now think about your job. The first week felt like chaos: names, tasks, rules, pressure. But your brain wasn't panicking, it was processing. It was reshaping itself to meet the challenge. If it had been easy, you wouldn't have grown. If it had been smooth, you would have stayed the same. Pressure is the sculptor, discomfort is the chisel. Every time you hit a wall in life and push through it, you become something more. Lost a relationship? That emotional chaos? That's your brain reformatting your perspective on love, trust, and self-worth. Got fired? That upheaval? That's your chance to rewire your identity, to pivot, to level up. It's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. Comfort zones are where potential goes to die. If you're not scared, you're not growing. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not evolving. That voice in your head that says, "I can't do this," that's the starting line of transformation. That's the signal your brain gives when it's about to build something new. Even a muscle has to tear before it grows. Why would your mind be any different? You want to rewire your brain? Step into the unknown. Face rejection, take the leap, learn the hard way. That's not failure. That's biology begging for your evolution. The dopamine system reboots when familiar rewards fail. That moment when what once excited you suddenly feels dull, that's not burnout. It's your brain saying it's time to grow. Dopamine isn't just about pleasure, it's about pursuit. It's the fire that drives you forward. But here's the twist: it fades when you get too used to the same hit. That daily coffee, that praise at work, that routine scroll through your phone. If it stops giving you that charge, it's because your brain is calling for evolution. You ever notice how winning the same way over and over eventually starts to feel like losing? That's not boredom. That's your dopamine system craving a new frontier. You can't level up playing the same level forever. Think about a video game. You master the basics, but eventually you want something harder, something that tests you. Life works the same way. When the reward feels empty, your system isn't broken, it's upgrading. That's why a relationship might lose its spark, why your dream job starts to feel like a cage, why routine comfort becomes a trap. It's not because you're ungrateful, it's because you're built to evolve. Dopamine whispers, chase more, not more stuff, more meaning, more depth, more challenge. You're wired to reboot, to shift gears, to get uncomfortable. So when the old reward no longer excites you, don't retreat, reinvent. Don't mourn the loss of thrill, build a bigger mountain to climb. Step into the unknown, start something that scares you, dare to fail again, and watch your dopamine come back like a storm. The system resets to give you power, not punishment. When the familiar loses flavor, it's your moment to reach higher, aim sharper, and move like someone who refuses to settle. Identity death precedes identity rebirth. The person you are today must collapse for the person you're meant to become to rise. It feels like chaos, it feels like confusion, but that's how transformation works. You don't level up by holding on to outdated versions of yourself. That version of you that settled, that feared, that doubted, it has to die. And death isn't quiet. It comes with resistance, with grief, with moments of who am I without this? But in that breakdown lies the blueprint for rebirth. Think about someone who's been in the same job for years. They know the rules, the rhythm, the rewards, but one day they look in the mirror and don't recognize the spark in their eyes anymore. That's not a crisis, that's the death of an identity that's expired. And when they finally quit, when they walk away from that badge, that title, that old version, they don't become lost, they become free. The brain enters the learning zone after emotional pain. You don't become wiser by avoiding heartbreak. You evolve through it. When life punches you in the chest, when everything feels like it's falling apart, your brain is wide open, raw, and ready to change. Pain clears the fog. It strips away the noise. It forces you to see what comfort hides. Emotional pain isn't the end of the road. It's the beginning of new wiring, new patterns, and deeper strength. You ever been betrayed by someone you trusted with everything? That betrayal didn't just hurt, it opened your eyes. You started noticing red flags, started trusting your intuition more, started learning what you deserved. That wasn't just healing, it was a masterclass in self-respect. Your brain, in its most fragile moment, became a sponge for truth. Or maybe you failed. Maybe you gave your all to a dream, a business, an audition, and it didn't work. The silence after failure is brutal, but it's in that silence your brain starts asking the hard questions. What can I do better? What did I miss? What's next? That's not weakness. That's evolution kicking in. Pain is not a signal to quit. It's a signal to adapt, to grow, to level up. Think of emotional pain as the fire that melts the old wiring. It's messy, it's intense, but from that fire comes something stronger, wiser reactions, sharper choices, deeper understanding. The heartbreak, the disappointment, the rejection, they're not setbacks, they're the doorways to the next version of you. And that version isn't just tougher, it's smarter. It doesn't repeat the same mistakes. It sees through the illusions. It's built for the storm. Emotional pain doesn't destroy the brain, it awakens it. It forces it to learn fast, deep, and forever. When isolation kicks in, inner clarity emerges. The silence that feels like punishment is actually preparation. When the noise of the world fades, when the distractions disappear, you're finally left with the most important conversation of your life, the one with yourself. Isolation strips away the masks. It reveals what you truly believe, what you truly value, and what you're really made of. People fear being alone because they fear meeting the unfiltered version of themselves. But that's exactly where transformation begins. Think about those nights when everyone stops calling, when no one checks in, when the spotlight turns off. At first, it feels like the world forgot you. But sit in that silence long enough, and something incredible happens. You stop performing, you start reflecting, you stop chasing noise, you start hearing your own voice again. That voice that got buried under expectations, under pressure, under lies you told yourself to survive. Or picture the person who went through a breakup and suddenly finds themselves alone in an apartment that used to echo with laughter. At first, it feels like emptiness, but slowly in that space, they begin to rebuild. They read again, they journal, they start working out, planning, dreaming, not for anyone else, for themselves. The isolation that felt like exile becomes a sanctuary. That's not loneliness, it's revelation. Even the strongest trees grow in silence, with roots pushing deep underground. The same happens with you. The deeper the isolation, the deeper the roots. That's when clarity hits. Who are you without the noise? Without the likes, the attention, the validation? That answer only comes in the quiet. And when it does, it's powerful. It's unshakable, because it's yours. Built in silence, forged in solitude, pure and unstoppable, the prefrontal cortex activates purpose when old goals collapse. The moment your dream shatters, When the plan you obsessed over crumbles to dust, your brain doesn't shut down. It steps up. The same part of your mind that helps you strategize, visualize, and aim forward suddenly lights up with raw energy. Why? Because collapse creates space. When everything you've been chasing no longer makes sense, the brain doesn't give up. It begins rewriting the map. Purpose doesn't die with a failed goal. It's born from it. Think about the athlete who trains for years only to suffer a career-ending injury. That kind of loss feels like identity death. But then something stirs. They begin mentoring. They start speaking. They write books. That same drive, that same fire, it redirects. The entrepreneur who puts everything into a business that crashes, bankrupt, humiliated, alone. That moment of collapse forces a new question: what now? That's when the prefrontal cortex kicks in. It starts piecing together new visions, new meaning. It doesn't recycle old dreams, it builds sharper ones, more aligned with who you've become through the pain. It's in the rubble that real direction is forged. The brain is built to adapt, to reassess, to seek new mountains. When your old mission fails, it's not a void. It's a vacuum pulling purpose into focus. You get clearer, you get bolder. You start moving not for ego, not for applause, but because you have to. Because something inside you ignited, something deeper, something real. Goals can die, but purpose can resurrect stronger, clearer, and more unstoppable than ever before. The collapse isn't the end of the mission, it's the activation of the real one. You begin to shift from reactive to proactive states. There comes a moment when you get tired of just surviving, tired of only responding to life's chaos. You stop waiting for the next fire to put out, the next problem to react to, and you start building fireproof systems. That's when everything changes. That's when you stop letting life happen to you and you start making life happen for you. The brain isn't wired to be stuck in defense mode forever. It evolves, it adapts, and eventually it shifts into creation mode. Think of someone drowning in debt. At first, they're reacting, dodging calls, making minimum payments, feeling overwhelmed. But then comes that breaking point. They sit down, open every bill, make a spreadsheet, make a plan. That moment, the shift from panic to preparation, is the rise of a proactive mind. They're not just escaping the storm, they're learning to navigate it, to dominate it, to move with strategy instead of fear. Or take a person constantly arguing in relationships, always triggered, always defensive. One day they catch themselves, they take a breath, they choose to respond, not react. They start reading, healing, setting boundaries. That's not just emotional growth. That's neurobiological evolution. That's the brain stepping out of the primitive mode and stepping into mastery. When you shift from reactive to proactive, life stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a blueprint. You don't wait to get sick, you get fit. You don't wait to get fired, you upgrade your skills. You don't wait for validation, you build inner worth. This shift is everything. It's the difference between being pushed by fear and pulled by vision. And when your mind makes that leap, you become unstoppable. Not because the world got easier, but because you became the one steering the ship instead of just bailing water. The hero's chemistry: stress plus meaning equals growth. Not just stress, not just pressure, not just hardship. It's when that pressure is connected to purpose that everything changes. You see, stress by itself can break you. But stress with meaning, that becomes the forge, that becomes the fire that doesn't burn you down. It burns away everything that's not real. That's what creates the hero. Not comfort, not ease, but purposeful struggle. Think about the single parent waking up at 5 a.m. exhausted, going to work, coming home, cooking dinner, helping with homework, and repeating the cycle day after day. That stress is real. That pressure is nonstop. But there's meaning behind every move. There's love. There's legacy. That's not just surviving. That's heroic chemistry at work. The stress doesn't drain them, it transforms them. They don't get weaker, they get sharper. Tired breath is fueled by a deeper why. Or take the student who grew up being told they'd never amount to anything. They're drowning in books, juggling side jobs, skipping sleep, grinding through every exam. Stress? Absolutely. But there's a vision behind the chaos. There's a dream, a purpose. That purpose changes the game. The body is tired, but the mind is on fire. That's not burnout, that's breakthrough energy. They're not breaking, they're becoming. Now picture the athlete training in the dark, sweating in silence, pushing past every limit while no one's watching. Their body screams, their lungs burn, but they're chasing something bigger than themselves. The Olympics, the league, redemption, legacy. That meaning turns pain into fuel. That meaning makes every rep sacred. That's why they don't quit. That's why they rise when others fall. It's not talent, it's meaning multiplied by pressure. Even the entrepreneur failing for the 5th time knows this formula. They've lost money, sleep, relationships, but they haven't lost purpose. That's the difference. If they were just chasing money, they'd quit, but they're building something they believe in. The sleepless nights, the rejections, the moments of doubt, they all carry weight because there's a mission underneath. That mission creates endurance. That meaning ignites resilience. That's why they show up even when it hurts. Stress without meaning is suffering. Stress with meaning is sacrifice. And sacrifice, when tied to something greater than self, becomes the birthplace of transformation. That's the chemistry of every hero, from the warrior on the battlefield to the artist chasing truth, from the father who stays when it's hard to the leader who stands when it's dangerous. The stress never goes away. The pressure never disappears. But when you add meaning, the whole story changes. You no longer run from the fire, you step into it. You no longer pray for ease, you prepare for greatness. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start saying, this is happening for me. You begin to see the pain as preparation. You begin to recognize that growth doesn't show up dressed in peace. It shows up dressed in struggle, wearing the face of everything you thought would break you. You want to grow? Don't run from stress. Don't pray it disappears. Give it a purpose. Connect it to your reason. Tie it to your future. That's when it activates something ancient, something unshakable, something divine. That's when you stop surviving life and start sculpting it. You become the hero, not because life got easier, but because you found the power to turn the pressure into purpose, the hardship into higher ground, the stress into fuel for the climb. Every storm you've endured, every silent battle, every sleepless night, it all brought you here, not to break you, but to build you. You are not a product of comfort, you are a masterpiece carved by struggle, sharpened by pain, and lit on fire by purpose. The world may not have clapped when you rose, but rise you did, and that rise was real. That rise was earned. You don't need applause to validate your journey, you need courage to continue it. Remember this, hard times create strong people create change. You are the storm that refuses to be tamed. The world throws chaos, you throw clarity. Life knocks you down, you get up like gravity forgot who you are. And when your legs shake, when your voice trembles, you whisper to yourself, I'm not done. You are not here to merely exist. You are here to build, to break, to rebuild, and to rise. The pressure is not your prison. It is your permission to evolve. The darkness is not your enemy. It is the canvas where your light begins to shine. You are not lost. You are being redirected, refined, reforged. So when the fear creeps in, when the doubt gets loud, remember this line. I didn't come this far to only come this far. Say it out loud. Say it with your chest. Let it echo in your bones. And then move. Move with fire. Move with focus. Move with the kind of grit that legends are made from. Because in the end, it's not the critic who counts. It's the warrior in the arena, bloodied, bruised, and still breathing. And you, yes, you are still breathing, still fighting, still becoming. Keep going. Your legend is being written in the pages of pain, power, and persistence. Pain isn't the end, it's the invitation. Biology, psychology, and human history all show us transformation begins with disruption. If this is happening to you right now, then let me be the first to say, welcome. You're not broken, you're becoming, and the best stage of your life has already begun.